All right, welcome everyone. Tonight's gonna be a good one. Welcome to PrepperNet Live. We've got the famous Rick Alston is in the house. If you guys can hear me, just in the chat room, let me know. You can hear and see me, and just tell me. I mean, you gotta love that music. And I found out the day my wife does not like it. Huh? Don't know what to do about that. So anyway, she's like, I don't like that music. So make sure tell me that you can hear and see me loud and clear. Gotcha. Awesome. Got Larry Denny in the house. I got Gary in the house. Wayne, Lee. We've got Harold. We've got Father John is back as always. We got Peggy. Peggy, I like that name. Thank you for joining us this evening. Yeah, we got an exciting evening. Got Rick Alston in the green room, and we didn't even get the chance to talk. We had to get this thing going, but looking forward to this. Love the music. Thank you, KTWB. Is that like not 100 watts? WKTWB. I don't know. So anyway, we are going to get started. I'm going to get started with some. Hey, y'all like my new background? You guys have to like that. Did a few changes. Don't tell anything if you see some secrets back there, okay? So let me remove this. If you see secrets back there, you can't say any words to people or objects or things that you see, but we'll keep going. So yeah, Larry says yes. Yep, people are laughing. I know there's some secrets back there. Yes, love it. Yep, okay. There's several of them back there. There's about 5. So anyway, just thought I would throw some people for a loop. Some of this you can't see right now because the thing's in the way, but hey, it's back there. So I'm gonna go through some announcements, and then we're gonna bring the Mr. Rick Alston in, and you guys know how this works. Go through my announcements. Y'all fall asleep during that time, and then Rick jumps in, and everybody wakes up, and then everyone's happy. Also, you guys know this will be on my podcast. I guess this is the right size. Yeah. So let's just keep going through the slides here. So I want you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have never really asked for that except for the last few times. So subscribe right now. Just go down there and hit subscribe and thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. Been told I need to ask for that. Ronald is in the house from Louisiana. Awesome. Hey, also, what's going to happen is the interview with Rick, I will literally get rid of all the announcements. It will be just the interview, and it will be placed on my podcast, the Prepping Academy. And you guys know that my Prepping Academy gets, I mean, it's about 1,000 to 1 that listen to my podcast. So I'm getting right now in 1 week, almost 29,000 people will listen to the podcast when I throw it out the first week, which I'm excited about that. And that's been growing. And I've been doing some advertising on there through the software I'm using, and it's been really paying off. So anyway, if you can't listen to it all tonight or want to share what Rick has to say, tell them they can catch it on the podcast and give it a 5-star. That way we'll get that things up as well. Hey, thanks, Don. Done. Thanks, Peggy. Peggy's my mom's name. Sorry. That's why Peggy, the name is dear to me. So anyway, let's keep going. So, hey, Christmas time is here, and I want to make this bigger so you can see this because all you guys have been wanting to buy me a Christmas gift. I know that's in the back of your mind. So why not use they call it an influencer account. I call it my PrepperNet store. Go to preppernet.com/Amazon, and that will give you the link. Otherwise, it's harder to get there. Just go to preppernet.com/Amazon, and it will take you to literally our Amazon store that I have. And everything we ever talk about is on there. We even have our head trainers, Sheepdog 757 has a page. We have all our comms gear on there, everything that you need. Now, here's the deal. If you go there and you buy something, we make 4%. if you go there and you can see what we're talking about and you buy it somewhere else or don't use our link, I'm okay with that. It's easier for us to give you what we're talking about there. And then I know I always get like 4 people, well, I don't use Amazon. And I'm like, well, then ignore it. You don't have to, I want to say the B word, but I literally, every time I send out an Amazon thing, support PrepperNet, use our Amazon link. I get 4 people that send me, well, I don't buy on Amazon because they're evil. Well, do we want to play that game? Anyway, because you're literally watching this on YouTube. We don't want to go down that route. But anyway, I do like to buy local, absolutely, but don't bitch about it. Let's be honest. If you don't want it, if you don't like the email, just delete it. You don't have to say, I don't have to buy anything on Amazon. Anyway, so you can get my gifts there. Anything in the cart there on the site, just go ahead and buy it for me. That'd be great. And you can just send it to my P.O. box. Here we go. Next thing is, hey, book of the week. I got 3 of them. We always pick a book of the week. Well, this week we got 3 of them. And I don't know, we may even hear from the author here later, but The Secret Garden of Survival. It's like you see the theme there? Everything's a secret with him. So maybe we can get some insight in there. So anyway, you can go, I'm sure he has a website, buy it from his website. Maybe he'll give it to us during the time, because anytime you can buy from the author's website, it's better for the author, okay? And they'll probably sign it and, put a $10 bill in there or something. So you don't know. But if you don't, you can go to our Amazon store because it's in there. Oh, there's the Amazon link right there. So I didn't even know I did that. So anyway, that's the books of the week this week. Go and buy them. Everyone should have them. The Secret Greenhouse of Survival, The Secret Livestock of Survival, and The Secret Garden. Of course, he teaches that class, and we're going to be asking all kinds of questions about everything that he does and everything. Just came in. Okay, so next slide is, don't forget, immediately after this, I hear him talking all gangster, is our HF net. We have one of the largest nets in the world. I'm just telling you. We have a massive amount of people that participate in this. We just trained a massive amount of people that will be participating in this with receive only with their shortwave radios, and starting in January. You shortwave radio people, I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for you guys tonight. I told him January, but I would go to the .net site and find out. But I know in January he's going to be broadcasting not only to HF technicians, but also anyone with a shortwave radio will be participating. So but it starts tonight, 9:00 after the show. Usually they start about 9:15, 9:30, so you can stay with us. So, hey, we're going to this big show. We go to 2 shows every year. This is one of them, Mountain Readiness. We're going to go Harmony. Everyone go to .net, get all your information on that. It's our spring show. And then we also go to this one. Anybody have heard of this one? Prepper Camp. It's the #1 self-reliant homesteading, off-grid, and preparedness conference. It's in Saluda, North Carolina. I know people that are already getting their campsites. They're already getting, hey, for questions on digital HF, go to .net site. That is the best way to do it, Stephen, is just go to the .net site. All the information is there. And Wendy already has her tickets. Larry already has his tickets. Hey, if you're going to camp, make sure you get a campsite, because it's going to they'll sell out quickly. So, and then you'll have to maybe go down the road and get a campsite. We've been to Prepper Camp a couple times, Don. So yeah, so absolutely. But hey, they're on sale right now, and they're cheaper right now than they ever will be. Matter of fact, I got this cool thing I did for you guys right here. So check on the bottom there. So you can get your holiday discount tickets for $54.95 for the entire 3-day. That's unbelievable. Prices will be good until December 31st. Go buy them now. Go to preppernet.com. Hey, PrepperNet always gets a bunch of places in Tent City. You're going to have to get with Gary, which is in the chat room right now, or Beth G, which is not in the chat room this evening, but she's on .net. If you're going to camp out with us, you got to let us know. So the owner of the campground has been very good to us over the years and allow us to kind of camp together, or at least close to each other. And so, but we got to kind of organize that so we know how many people and what size of area we need. So anyway, this is the best show in the United States, guys. You need to go ahead and get your tickets. And we will see. We always have, I think last year at our cookout around the fire in Tent City, gosh, does anybody remember the number? I was thinking it was like 109 people we had at our little cookout there on Saturday night. I am not sure. If anyone knows that number, I know Beth's not there, but let me. It was a massive amount of people that we counted come through the line. So anyway, get your, and we'll talk about more about Prepper Camp if you're unsure. Great show, fun. Yep, time camping. Okay. Don't forget, next Sunday night is Scott Hunt, Engineer 775. Excuse me. It's going to be our Christmas show. And I'm going to be honest with you. There'll be a little prepping talked about, but mostly about Christmas. We've done this for years now. One of the cool things is I'm going to share with you guys, I'm just going to do it. Several years ago, Scott and I were doing a show, and this young man, special operations in the military, listened to our show. He pulled off side of the road, and it changed his entire life. It changed his wife's entire life, and his brother-in-law and sister-in-law's entire life. We're still working on his father, but if you go to Prepper Camp, and you see a big guy volunteering, his name is Native, and he is the gentleman that heard that podcast that turned his life around. And that was, and since then, Scott's and I have been doing the Christmas show. So anyway, that was very motivating. That was probably 5-6 years ago. That he got baptized, him and his wife and brother-in-law, and it was amazing. So anyway, that's why we do the Christmas show. If you don't show up, plain and simple. Okay. Next is we have, don't forget, January is Spy Month. One night we're going to be talking about spy gadgets. I actually taught that at Prepper Camp like 8 years ago. It's always my most, I guess not most asked about and most requested one to teach. And it's been, I've upped the ante this year. I'm going to teach you how to do caches and cache hidings. That all stemmed from when we interviewed Selco, when he talked about how important it was to hide things in plain sight or hide things so you can go get. They're not always with you or on you. So we're going to talk about caching. I told you guys how I think I'm an expert at that, maybe, because I've buried about $14,000 in caches just to get to my location. And I'm an expert in geocaching, which is my kids and I. So we have a bunch hidden there. So anyway, Spy Night, we're going to have a special guest. We're going to announce it. And then we're going to go over a one-time pass. These are 4 different nights in January. I'm going to train you guys in a one-time pass, share some software that you can use to do it so you can send private messages 100% top secret between each other. And you'll have the tools to do it. And then I'll give you documents so you won't need me to train you again because you'll forget it. And these documents will help you train. So we'll have the whole month that we're going to call Spy Month. I don't know. What does that have to do with prepping? Some of the spy gadgets, you'll go, oh, I see. This is pretty cool. A one-time pad. Yes, Joe 10 knows what one-time. Oh, yeah, one-time pad. Oh, I did. Well, one-time password, one-time pad. Same thing in my book. You're right, Joe 10. Absolutely. So let's keep going here. So I'm going to introduce Rick. I've known Rick for probably 11 years now. I think I probably met him at the first Prepper Camp. Rick is the founder of Prepper Camp, him and his wife. And Jane, one of the questions I have here is whose idea was it, his or his wife? So I'm going to let him prepare for that because we need to know. And then, and he's also written several books. He does a podcast. He does a video cast. He does a pretty much everything. He is a staple within the prepping community. He was on Doomsday Preppers. And so let's bring Rick Alston into the mix here. And Rick, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I know you didn't know I was going to play that, but that's a pretty good video. Everyone likes that video.
Well, that was the best introduction you could have made. That's for sure.
I mean, was that, did you know, I mean, you knew that they were going to take a spin on it and make it funny, right?
We had a year-long negotiation before we did it because when they approached me and said, this is the Daily Show and it's Comedy Central, I said, okay, you guys, your whole job is to make fun of conservatives. So I don't think I want to do it. And they said, no, we really want you. We need you to be the king of preppers, so to speak. And, because we want to do this thing and we actually want to make fun of ourselves. So it was a good year of negotiations with Viacom, which owns Comedy Central. And, we dealt with their lawyers and there was $1 million non-disparagement clause. So they had to put teeth in the thing just to make sure that they weren't going to, use the opportunity to knock preppers and knock what we were doing. So it turned out that they were doing exactly what I thought. Interestingly enough, she was scripted. I was not. So all of those answers by me were all just off the cuff. So it was fun. It was a fun shoot. And, she was a really nice, genuine person. She kept telling Jane, I just play this character. I'm not really like this. And she came from a conservative family. And when she came, she we took her around the farm and showed her the goats. She said, "Oh, can I get in there with the goats? Can I get a picture for my kid?" And she said, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." So it was a good experience, and it really is a funny piece.
It is hilarious. And people say we went off the air for a second. They thought that we got nuked by the government. I got text messages, but we have been back while you were talking. It came back. So good. Listen, YouTube it's on YouTube already. They don't care about that video, guys. So I am getting a major storm. Sounds like a hurricane's coming outside right now, but hey, we'll survive it. So I got some questions. So you're an author. You and Jane were on, I know, Doomsday Preppers. Didn't want to show that one. This one was so much better, just funnier. And so there's a lot of truth to the funniness, though, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what even. And so some people watch that and they might not, but as preppers, we're like, yeah, that is kind of. So the storm in here, so it's absolutely every time I do a show. One night the mailman ran over my mailbox and I heard it. Another night a fire truck shows up to my neighbor's house. So tonight we're going to just get a hurricane outside. So but I do, so let me ask you, if you don't mind, let's talk about Prepper Camp, because tickets are on sale now and they can get tickets now at a huge discount. What's the percentage of discount between now and, because it goes up over time, correct?
Right. Yeah, we give a discount for people to purchase the tickets earlier on, and it helps us to know kind of the numbers that we're going to have and where we kind of stand. It allows us to take care of some fixed costs early on, and to lock in things like our tent people who. It is not a cheap venture by any means to put this event on when we've got that many tents and 2,000 people, and I think you heard last year, the year before last, each one of those chairs, those 2,000 chairs, cost $1 a piece to rent, Well, last year the price went up 50%. It was $1.50 per chair. So you do the math, that's $3,000 just for chairs for people to put their butts in. So
Right. You
this
got to
is
have
not
them
a
though. Yeah.
but the whole event is not a moneymaker thing for Jane and myself. This is kind of our ministry, and we got into this because we were on the speaking circuit after Doomsday Preppers, and we just realized that people wanted to get the kind of information that they needed so they could live kind of the lifestyle that we do, and be more prepared. So we do this. We started this 12, 13 years ago, and we this is our 11th year. Last year was our 10th anniversary, which kind of hard to believe because after the first one, I wasn't sure I wanted to do another one.
Well, the funny thing was I've been to all 10 years. The first year I went under an alias because I didn't know. I was so scared to go to a show like this. I signed up under an alias. I know that, and I went with you, Dave very well. And Dave and I were talking,
Yeah.
like, Dave, like, he didn't know you at that time either, Dave Stutz. And we're like, okay, we need to sign up and go. And we just won't, we'll just keep a low key because Dave was a conspiracy theorist. One of the first ones I've ever hung out with. Man, they're gonna have cars going through a parking lot, scanning our tags, and he was saying all this stuff. And so I was taking all the precautions, but I've been there all the years. My question is, so you started this because you were tired of traveling, right? And that was the big thing, is that you thought that people would enjoy coming to you instead of you going all over the nation, right?
Well, not really.
No?
We were back 12, 13, 14 years ago, after we'd done Doomsday Preppers, Jane and myself became kind of celebrities, and there were a bunch of prepper shows out there that were all over the country, and most of them were held in a convention center where people were butt to butt, elbow to elbow. It was like $5 to get in a ticket, and it was at a convention center, and people who weren't really serious about the prepping thing. So people come to kind of see what it was all about. And what the promoters were is they weren't really preparedness minded people themselves. They were just trying to make a buck on the next craze. So they were much more concerned about making the vendors happy and selling stuff than they were about teaching. And Jane and I were there, as well as people like Scott Hunt and some others who had some credentials, and we drew in people for them. We were a marketing draw for them. And there were some of us after some of these events that just said, we just watch people there, and they're talking to the vendors, and they just don't know what they don't know. They're interested in buying stuff, but they don't know if they need it or not. And we just said, hey, look, we're educators. Let's do an event that we would like to attend in a venue that is conducive to these things, the bushcraft stuff and whatever. And it was the hand of God at work, because we had worked on the whole concept and came up with the name Prepper Camp and trademarked it and did all kinds of other stuff and started working on things, but we had to have a venue. And I just happened to be at speaking at another show. It was actually, I think, Charlotte at the time. And there was a couple there that went to my class, and they came up to us afterwards and said, oh, you have goats. And I said, yeah. And they said, well, we're interested in buying some dairy goats because we're interested in that stock thing. And I said, well, we've got some babies, so yeah, that'd be great. They came and they looked at them, and then they weren't ready to go yet, and they weren't weaned yet. So when it came time for them to take delivery, they asked if we could come out to bring them to them. And I have never before and never since delivered goats to anyone. They come at them for whatever reason, like, it was like the hand of God where, and so we delivered the goats, and a nice couple. And he said, well, yeah, I happen to have a campground. Are you interested in taking a ride? Because it was off season at that point. And so we went on a ride in his ramped up golf cart, and it was like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride through 140 acres of land. And I'm like, man, this is it. This is the place. Right. And so we approached them doing prepper camp there, and it was kind of a risk for them too. Just like, you were concerned about people who you were when you went to prepper camp for the first time. They were concerned about having a bunch of people come there too, because they didn't know if they were crazies or, but they literally prayed on it, and they said, we think this needs to happen. So we did the first year. We didn't know what we didn't know. We had a lot of issues that were pretty much most people that were going on, but there was a lot of stuff because we hadn't done this before. I'd done a lot of events before in my professional career, but we just and we hadn't worked with the different vet force, so it was all new to everybody. And but halfway through the event, people were asking me when we were going to have the next one. So I said, well, I'm not sure on another one, but things kind of calmed down, like giving birth. And, you don't ask a woman after she's given birth if she's ready to have her next baby. So after we give it some thought and got lots of good feedback, we just said, okay, let's do another one. And, we've been the largest preparedness, homesteading, self-reliance event in the country ever since. And we get people literally from every state in the country. We get speakers from every state in the country. We get people from Canada. We've even had people from Australia come to prepper camp. So it's been good. And, we just try every single year to make it better than the last year.
Yeah, I can attest that's for sure. It has been. I got a quick story about the first year I went. Dave and I, we camped out, and we camped out at the back gate, right at the back gate. There was no tent city that year, but at the back gate, it was just a road, and I was the last little place. If you are coming into the road and you turn and left there, Dave and I were on the left side. We put our little tents there. Well, the first night, the first night we have two separate tents, and I was rumbling around in my bag to get my keys because I wanted to get something out of my car. This is like 3 a.m, and I hit my alarm on my car. And now I've got to scramble around and find the flashlight so I can find my keys. It went off for like 4 minutes, and finally I hit it and turned it off, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then that morning I was in line in the shower, getting ready to get in the showers. It's about, 75-yard walk or so. And I'm sitting out there on the steps, and someone says, man, Joe, hit that alarm go off at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm like, no, I think I slept right through it. Come to find out, I've become friends with that guy. But the next night, if you remember, I don't know if it's because I stayed there 2 years. The next night, one night it rained, and my mattress was literally floating so much. So anyway, that's my two. I think that was the first 2 years I went there. But prepper camp has been amazing. Every year, you do bring up new classes and new things, and you got from securing your house to used to do butchering meat to metalworking, every skill that someone probably would need. Even you do ham radio. Like every skill that is needed, or the major 30 skills, even sewing. You cover it all there. There's an expert there teaching a class. And so, yeah. What do you, is that, I guess that's on purpose to get these people to cover every.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. We want to have all the major things, and we generally have some of the same standby classes every year, just because people need to know how to grow food and various other stuff. So there's always some base classes there, because we have new people every year. 2 years ago, we had a whole bunch of new people and that I hadn't seen before, and they were in my class. It was 9 o'clock the first day. It was first class of the day, and I just asked people generally, who's seen me before, and not many people had raised their hands, had not seen one of my classes before. And I said, okay, who's a new prepper camper? And 90% of the class raised their hands. So I said, boy, that's weird. Why is that? And some guy yelled out, Biden. So people were waking up. So we have lots of new people every year, and we have some people that repeat again and again and again. And so because we do have people that are coming again and again, we always try to have at least 20 new classes every year. And that means I have to cut 20 other classes, but we try to find things that are sort of topical for the time. So last year we had an anti-kidnapping class, and Sarah Hathaway taught that one, and it's become a big issue with the sex slavery, the child kidnapping, the women kidnapping, and it happens in Walmart parking lots, where some woman's walking with a bag full of hands full of groceries, and get her keys out to the car, and somebody who drives up in a van slides the door open, throws her in, and takes off. Fills her full of drugs, and she's now in the prostitution trade. So this is happening way too often. So we had somebody who can teach how to keep that from happening. And you're right. We have 64 classes a day, all 3 days of the event. So there's a lot to learn. In fact, one of our speakers, a guy from Canada, Toolman Tim, he had been to a bunch of other shows, and he said, oh yeah. And then there's the big one, Prepper Camp. And he said, folks, it's like drinking from an information fire hose. There's just so much to learn there.
Yep. So someone's asking like 20 times here, is Prepper Camp handicap accessible? I'll let me answer that. If you can walk, you can get around. There are some slight hills, but if you can walk up a hill a little bit, or if you can, I'm not sure. How would you answer that, Rick? There's some tricky parts there, being handicap accessible.
We have specific handicap parking. We have parking for golf carts too, and most of Prepper Camp is on flat terrain. And in fact, there's porta potties on flat terrain within the vendor area as well. The food service is really, the food trucks are the only thing that are uphill, and there's plenty of food, people serving food inside, that flat terrain area too. So, the only thing you would need to do is if you're going up to one of the food trucks, and there's ways around that, and of course there's some steps and stairs there too. And if you go kind of walk toward the where our the smaller tents are on the water, what were we calling them? I can't remember. But in any case, there's a gentle slope going up there, and you can literally hang a right and do kind of a 180 and go up there. So it's doable, and lots of people do.
Yeah, I would say if you can't walk, a wheelchair, someone can push you around pretty easy around there for sure, and get to all the things. There's just and you could actually not walk uphill any, but some of it you have to walk. You're walking across a slight hill. I would say that. So if you can do that, it's absolutely. I see people out there with canes and walkers and scooters all the time. So I would say almost 100% handicap. But yeah, you don't know until you try it. But come with a friend if you're or make a friend. So next question is, it has grown every year. I mean, you're getting, I think the numbers you kind of sell out every year, but it seems that it's getting better every year. My question is this: I mean, do you have any? Are you going to try to keep it the same, or will you be doing any different things for Prepper Camp 2024, or it's just going to be the same but better?
Yeah, we're still going to have about 20 new classes. So, you know, we'll myself and my wife, Survivor Jane, and our executive committee kind of get together and go through, and we have submissions for new classes all the time. So some classes, you know, we may bring back from the past, and sometimes we've got people who just say, hey, I've got a great idea for a class, and we'll run it up the flagpole, and we ask them to kind of write out what their own bio is, so we know where they're coming from, as well as you know, the description of the class, so we can see whether or not it's really going to be something that people are interested in. We had a class last year called Win Against Woke, and the guy who taught it, Paul Vallone, is been kind of a lifetime he's kind of a political activist on for our side, let's put it that way. And you know, he had a great class on how to take it to your school boards who are trying to promote, you know, all that crap to the children out there, and, you know, how to stand up to them, and how to win against that kind of a system. So, but you know, we're looking at, you mentioned butchering, I think, at one point early on, and we're going to bring butchering back, and a number of different classes that we're looking at right now. But you know, we kind of try to look out into the future as to what's going to be the most important things to be concerned about come September 2024. And you know, home defense, learning how to take your own team and how to deal with marauders and invaders and that kind of stuff, or whether that's the 30,000 Chinese nationals who are all PLA guys who came across our border, all wearing the same kind of clothes and having the same kit and same backpacks. You know, whether those are all cells. I mean, think about it. In 9/11, it only took 19 guys to take down the United States for a period of months and cause us $1 trillion in lost revenue in GDP. So think about 30,000 Chinese nationals and all the testing that's been done on our power grid. You know, this is stuff that we're looking at, and people need to be prepared for it.
Yep. Absolutely. So I got this last question. This just came to my head right before the show. It's going to be difficult for you to answer this one, but I want you to. What was your favorite year? And you've been doing this. You've done it 10 years. Is there one year that you're like, okay, the people here, they get it finally, or like you had the best lineup of classes, or is there a favorite year that you have?
I think last year, best year, because we just add more stuff all the time. So, you know, we started off when we started Prepper Camp, and we had 6 classes going on at the time. Now we had 8 to 9 going on at one time, 9 at certain times of the day. We had several different demonstrations, including Fortress Canine, who I wish I had seen that, but I did see it on video when he did the bite work with his executive protection dogs, and then, you know, Rick Native that and Rex. Pastor Rex had that men's group thing that they did, which was kind of cool.
That was last year.
And you know, they just brought and they brought that to me and said, "Hey, we want to do this." And I said, "Well, you know, yeah, we could do something. We could just figure out where to put it and do it lunchtime."
They tried to get me to come, and I'm like, I'm too busy.
So we had and we had 4 movies last year. We had Brad from 5 Times August for his second appearance at Prepper Camp,
Yep.
and he has already agreed to come back for the next year. And he is the #1 singer-songwriter. He is the political protest singer of our time. Where I'm a child of the 60s, so I grew up with that kind of stuff, and those guys are nowhere to be found. And he's doing it, and he is now an international personality. During the first Prepper Camp, he wasn't really that well known, but now he's an international. He's traveled all over the world at all these, stop the mandates and stop vaccine things and that kind of stuff. And his album last year was the #1 singer-songwriter album on both Apple, iTunes, and on Amazon. So that's something. And his videos are absolutely amazing. And the fact that he's not only writes the music, sings the music, but he also creates these videos that are just total satire and just slap you in the face, using the words of the people he's making fun of, their own statements. So
and then Pastor X, he always does the Sunday morning church service there by the lake. Yep. That's always fun. So tell everyone.
And it's nice to have a pastor who's actually a prepper. So
right. And so it's funny. He's lives up in the Wilkes County area, and we have every year we see each other. We're like, oh, let's get together. There's a great restaurant up there. We've yet to do it, but I need to call him and do it. But he's a great. I love the first year we were beside each other, and it was pretty awesome to get to know him. Tell everybody the ticket discount, and then we're going to transition to growing some food questions and about your books. But where can people get the tickets, and when does the price go up? And if you got any other things you want to talk about Prepper Camp, and we'll move right on to some food.
Okay. Ticket prices for Prepper Camp will be $100 at their final price. And the ticket prices right now are $54.25. So they're $45 off right now. And that is until December 31st. And then first of the year, prices go up. So, now is the time to get your tickets for Prepper Camp. And, so I think there was another question there, but I can't remember what it was now. So that's at preppercamp.com. That's preppercamp.com. That's it.
Yeah.
Just like that screen going across there. Yeah.
Yeah. At PrepperNet, we have always promoted. That's our biggest event. We have the most people come to that. We do a spring event, but the Prepper Camp we've been going there for years, and our people love it. And like I said, last year, I think we had like 109 people when we have a little cookout together. I think it was 109. I don't know. Beth's not on here. She would know. She was the one doing the counting. But it's a fun time. We hang out, and but yeah,
I think it's important to know too, for that, unlike a lot of other events, it's one price for everything, and you can go to any class. You don't have to pre-register for any of the classes. You go whenever you want to go, or whatever times of the day you want to go. So it's not like where you have to pre-register and a class gets full, or that you have to pay extra. There's no materials fees or anything like that. So we have been striving just to keep it at one set price, so nobody feels like they're being nickel and dimed to come to Prepper Camp.
And also for about handicap accessible, if you all the speakers that need a television or a microphone, you have them, because a lot of people were like, they're concerned, well, I won't be able to hear it. But the people that need a microphone, they have a microphone, so everyone should hear it. You guys go from tent to tent to tent to make sure everybody is, for every single class, everything's working, and it's always great. You guys are a lot of help there. for sure. Chin is, you just call Chin and big tall guy comes and helps you. And but everyone should be able to hear it. There's a lot of seating as well, and you can bring your if you have a wheelchair or your own special seat, there's room to put it on the side, still be in the
Right.
shade, and probably be so. I mean, it's got there's no bad things about prepper camp. And one of the great things, I have never noticed a bug issue. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's outside." I've never seen a bug issue in September up at in Saluda there. Never even thought about it. But a friend of mine goes, "Well, isn't there a lot of bugs?" I'm like, "No, they're not." The only time you'll see a bug is a yellow jacket near a trash can. Other than that, there's nothing. But it is well done. It's and you guys have got it down. This is the 11th year. Matter of fact, I can't think of another one that's been going on for more than 10 years. A lot of them stopped, or they're
Right.
they're out of business. You guys might be one of the
Right.
longest at this point. You're only 10 years. So,
Right.
so
well, I was a businessman for 35 years too. So,
right.
you know,
So let's talk about food. You are the secret forest master. So don't hate me, Rick, but on my land currently, I have so much canopy of trees, I can't even use a sun oven on my own property. I have to go out to the road within 5 feet of the road to put my sun oven out to cook food. And that looks kind of odd to my neighbors when they're driving by and they see this satellite looking dish kind of thing as I'm cooking. But you are the king of gardening. So when you started this, you were a business guy. How did you all of a sudden go, hey, I need to grow food. Hey, I need to make it where it kind of blends in with the forest. So tell us how all that kind of happened.
well, I lived in New Hampshire for a number of years, and I had apple orchards there, and I did everything. I was kind of a gentleman farmer, and I did everything according to conventional wisdom, and I sprayed pesticide every 10 days and after every rain. I used fertilizer, or I used weed killer. I had all my trees growing in straight rows. It was all one single crop with all the same apple trees. And with grass growing in between and the leaves touching between the apple trees. And little did I realize that the grass sucked up the same nutrients the apples needed. And I still had scabby, wormy apples no matter what I put in there for chemicals. So it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I spent a lot of time, and then I did the same thing when I was in Florida, with citrus. So when it came time for us to move to our final retreat, so to speak, I said, I'm going to try this permaculture stuff because I've been reading a lot about it. And, there would be these 400-page books written by university professors, and they just were a little hard to understand. But I kind of picked them apart, and I made this little plan and said, I'm going to grow them on the south side of this mountain that we bought, because that's where the most sun is going to be. And I'm going to put terraces in so I can maximize my space from a geometric standpoint. And it's, the as ink is, and many of the people in China grow their food on terraces on the side of mountains. So I said, well, let's see what we can do. And I decided that, I would do, I would have these little mini ecosystems. And so let's take a fruit tree, for example, a nut tree, and that grows up and then eventually grows out. And underneath that fruit tree then becomes shade. It's got a canopy. So then there's certain types of plants that enjoy that shade. and there's a symbiotic relationship between the two, and they share nutrients together, and they both do better together than they do by themselves. And then you've got this tree, and outside of that is full sun, and that's where you plant your shrubs, your blueberries, elderberries, blackberries, those kind of, raspberries, those kind of things. And then outside of that is full sun again. So you've got these sort of concentric circles, and outside of that you put your herbs. So you're cooking herbs, your medicinal herbs, and those things flower all year long. They've got little teeny tiny florets, and they attract pollinators constantly, and they also attract the predatory wasps that will kill the bad bugs that you don't want to have on the rest of your fruit. So what you've created is kind of a concentric circles, and the outside circle of herbs is like a defensive perimeter around your other fruit. So you don't need pesticide, and you don't need weed killer, because weeds are just misunderstood plants. They're basically pioneer plants, and they'll go in where nothing else will grow. They'll break up the soil. They'll allow nutrients to get into the soil and water and air. And so it's, when you pull weeds, you're setting yourself back a year, literally. So we allow the weeds to grow in there, and I won't pull anything up. I won't pull any weeds, but I will cut them off. And I'll throw them over the fence to my goats, and they love that stuff. So it's free food for them. And there's, again, symbiotic relationships between all those plants and the other ones. So I've got probably 40 little mini ecosystems on less than half an acre of land on the side of a hill, south facing. And as time goes on, those trees get bigger and they can bear more fruit. And we last year got 4 monster gorilla carts. I don't know how many gallons they were, but 4 monster gorilla carts full of Asian pears from one tree, for example. So,
wow.
And because we've had such a huge amount of production, all I do, once I plant it, all I do is just go and harvest. So I'll bring in 6 to 2 gallons of fruit a day. And about halfway through the summer, Jane, whose poor job it is to can, preserve, freeze dry, all of this stuff, she just says, stop. So we do have 3 freezers, and we will put stuff in the freezer, and, she'll pick it up again later in the fall. So to preserve all that. And we've got 120 animals on the property too. So, we feed our animals, we feed ourselves, and the animals are our livestock. And, we have Nigerian dwarf dairy goats. So they produce all the dairy milk and dairy products that we would makes every product that you would buy in a store, from cheeses, cheddar cheese, to mozzarella cheese, to cheesecakes and ice cream. Best ice cream in the world, 50% more butterfat than cow's milk. And that's good for you. And if you're lactose intolerant to cow's milk, you won't be to goat's milk. And, we don't put any chemicals in our animals, so we don't get any of that either. So the garden, really, once it's set up and established, it just takes care of itself, and we don't water it. We let nature do that, because these are perennials, so they have a chance to put down deeper roots, and they're not as susceptible to droughts, too much water, too little water, too much heat, too little heat, as your garden variety annual vegetables, which have a 3-month life cycle. So, these you plant once and harvest for a lifetime, and it just keeps getting bigger and just keeps producing more food, which, we have the opportunity to feed ourselves and feed neighbors and our animals as well.
So do you guys sell any of it, or mostly store it, eat it, and give it away to friends, kind of?
Yeah, it's just not really worth our while to go out there and sell stuff. And then
Right.
a lot of the stuff has got to be approved by USDA and go through all that rigmarole. And frankly, I just as soon not have the government up my butt on any of that stuff. So, we just don't. But we preserve everything that we don't use, that year. So we've got a lot of that food preserved, and we're going to need it sometime.
Okay, a couple questions I see here. One is, what do you do about peach tree worms? Do you have peach trees on your food forest?
Yeah, we do. I don't have any problems with those kind of things, but I think that's because we take care of those predators. The way I grow food. It's like the Garden of Eden. It's the way nature has grown things for millions of years without man's help. And the reason that man grows things in straight rows is it's easier for somebody to harvest, and they do monocrop agriculture with one crop in a huge area, and that just invites pests. It invites those kind of things. But when we've got those little mini ecosystems, that doesn't happen. We don't really have a lot of problems with pests, and the production is so much that when we do, we might have a few scabs on some of the Asian pears, for example. And because our production is so high, my wife gets really picky now about what she's going to preserve. So she says, I only want the roundest, easiest to skin and peel, pears. So the goats can get the other stuff, the pigs can get the other stuff, and the really bad stuff that already started to burn and rot, maybe the chickens get.
Well, maybe losing you there, but I do want to answer Pistol Pete's question. Yeah, you went out for a second, but I'm going to answer Pistol Pete's question because I know Pistol Pete. And this is answers only for Pete, no one else. This answer is only for Pistol Pete. Pistol Pete, I would take 7 dust and just sprinkle it all over and dunk your. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But that kills everything. No, don't do that. That was just for Pistol Pete.
So kill your bees too.
Say what?
I said it would kill your bees too, and one of the nice things we have is we've got 7 beehives that are right next to our garden. So they help pollinate everything, and they create honey for us. And because a bee will fly as far as 5 miles for pollen and nectar, I've got stuff that's constantly flowering there, so they can make a lot more trips, and the more trips they make, the more honey they make for me.
Yeah. So the next question is, what kind of food kind of tree could you make for like a hedgerow for privacy? Now, let me ask you this question, because I have a friend and she grows an apple tree up about 3 feet and then branches it all off like a grapevine. Do you do that? No?
You could. I don't. No.
Yeah.
My trees that are chipped. Yeah. My fruit trees are like 30 feet tall now.
Okay. Okay.
And
so what would you use for
privacy?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. What would I use for privacy? There's lots of plants out there you can do that, and you can create these barriers as well. So blackberries are simple, raspberries are simple. They grow and they twine and intertwine and everything, and they're pretty prickly. So it's a good way to keep pests out that you don't want to have. Osage orange, some people call it Osage orange. That was kind of the in the 1600s. That was the farmers' natural barbed wire, because those things have huge spikes in them, and you can intermingle and intertangle those things, and they will just they'll just keep growing. And it's what the old farmers used to use when they didn't have fencing, is they planted that stuff, and it kept the cattle where they wanted to, and it kept the predators on the other side. So that's a great thing to have as well. If you're looking for ways to keep people out or keep predators or other animals out, that's a great way to do it.
How about to hide? What would you plant to give just a visual barrier?
Rose hips are great. They grow up and they grow out, and they'll grow 15 feet tall, and then they'll start to fall over, and they grow into this huge thicket. So it's medicinal for you,
Mhm.
but they'll just cover up everything that you're doing. So from a privacy standpoint, they're great.
Okay, gotcha. Um, so most people, preppers, will have a garden, row gardens, just row after row after
Mhm.
row. How do they transition? And what would you suggest how they should transition to something more of like what you have in your book and about what you talk about? The secret garden. How would they? How is that a transition to go from rows to the secret forest or garden?
Well, yeah, the reason I did the books, the first one was The Secret Garden of Survival, How to Grow a Camouflage Food Forest. The reason I wrote that book was because I had done so many presentations, like we talked about earlier, at all these different prepper events, and people kept asking me, "Is it well, you should write a book. You should show us how to be able to do this." So that is why I wrote the book, and because this was a huge experiment for me too, because I had done everything the traditional way beforehand. I took pictures every step of the way, and I took colors. And this, Secret Gardener Survival is really just kind of a picture book, and I take you through step by step by step. Everything from how to dig the hole and what to plant in it, and how to get things started, and even creating some of these symbiotic relationships right off the bat. So, you can plant a grapevine with an apple tree and with a comfrey in the same hole, and their roots will intertwine and they'll all share nutrients. And people, every time they think of grapes, they think of trellises. Well, nature doesn't grow things in trellises. Nature's
Right.
trellises are trees. And so these grapes grow up on the trees. They both do better together than they do by themselves. I've got lots of pictures that show grapes growing on an apple tree. The apples are green. The grapes are starting to ripen. The grapes ripen, you pick those, then the leaves of the grapes fall off, and now that apple tree has full sun. You're getting two crops in the exact same amount of space. And the reason that we plant comfrey, which is an herb, it has a 30-foot taproot, so it'll reach down 30 feet and pull up nutrients that the tree and the other stuff can't reach, and it'll share it with the other plants around it in that whole little
Wow.
ecosystem. So things like calcium and magnesium and those kind of things that the plants need, but they just can't reach. So that's kind of the whole symbiotic relationship that goes through there. We grow, annuals too. We grow things like tomatoes and that kind of stuff. But we grow it in amongst these little ecosystems, so they can take advantage of, the predatory wasp and the other stuff in there. And literally, when you grow this stuff out, it just looks like kind of an unmanaged forest that just kind of things just kind of took over. So it's not clear to anybody walking by that you've got food growing there until stuff starts to ripen, and apples turn red, or whatever it is you've got starts to ripen. So when everything's still green, people have no idea that you have food growing there. And in today's world, most people don't know what food looks like unless it's in a package with a label on it anyway.
They grow it in the grocery store, don't they?
Yeah, right. Oh, the stuff that they grow in the grocery store, it ain't real. I'll tell you. I've seen strawberries in Walmart that are like huge, and I'm going,
Mm.
there is no way that's a natural strawberry. It's genetically modified or something, or they just pump the thing up full of drugs. But when you open up something like that, it's still all white inside, and it's just kind of
Mhm.
bland. And it never ceases to amaze me when people come here and we serve them a meal of the stuff that we make, including desserts that have fruit in it, and peach cobbler or whatever. and they have the strawberries that we grow, and it's like they're tasting food for the first time. They just haven't had that flavor, because the way we're growing food these days, not only have we got pesticides and everything else in it and it's genetically modified, but they're growing it in, they're constantly growing it in the same soil. So they're losing key nutrients that you would have in there otherwise. And there's been a study that shows that there's a third of the nutrients in our food today that there was in the 1960s. So, and that's why. And people, we wonder why we have such an obese society, but your body is telling you that, hey, I'm missing something, just keep eating. And that's why.
I read an article several years ago, and you probably know the facts on this, but the article stated that in your average grocery store in America, if you go and pick up an apple, that apple was actually picked over a year ago. And
I don't know. I don't know, but
the average, and y'all can look it up on the internet, verify what I say. But the article said that the average apple in any grocery store was last year's harvest. It's never this year's harvest, because look at apples. Apples aren't being picked in 90% of America from here until next October, September. So they're at least about a year on average old. And so anyway, so tell us like the variety of fruit and vegetables you grow. And because you said a half acre, everyone has, well, I won't say everyone has a half acre. I'll say a half acre is not that big.
No, it's not.
And what kind of, name some of the things that you grow, if you don't mind. I mean, I want people to know that you can grow a lot of food in a half acre.
Right. Well, the beauty of this system too is not everything gets ripe at the same time. So if it did, there would be no way I would be able to pick everything. So we, strawberries are usually first, and then red raspberries, black raspberries, blueberries, figs, apples. We've got muscadine grapes because they're native here, and scuppernong grapes because they're native here. We've grown Concord grapes here too, but they don't do as well because they've got a very thin skin, and wasp will come by and they'll sting them, and then they'll suck the juice out of them. So those grapes will literally be fermenting on the vine. So we try to get stuff that is indigenous to the area as well, but we grow, kefir pears and Asian pears, which are like a cross between an apple and a pear. They're round like an apple, but they're hard like a pear. Those are very hardy for here. We grow a number of different peach varieties as well. And I've got videos online that show that I've got, trees where they are so laden with fruit that the branches are laying down over me, and I'm standing inside this giant canopy, and I pick 5 gallons of peaches in 15 minutes. That's a good harvest. So and we've got hazelnuts, and we've got walnuts and black walnuts, and we also grow all of your regular garden variety vegetables. And we've got our greenhouse, which is a year-round greenhouse, my secret greenhouse of survival. It's an insulated greenhouse. And, we grow exotics in there that we wouldn't be able to grow in our environment, because there are times that we get 33 degrees below zero in the winter with a wind chill factor where we are in the Appalachian Mountains. So we're growing your sort of salad type vegetables in the greenhouse, and we also grow things like Myers lemons and coffee trees and stuff like that.
I was going to ask you about that.
So
I saw the video of you building this, your greenhouse. I think you put that online, and then you were growing coffee in there as well, and you're still growing coffee inside of there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, how many times has anybody ever said they'd kill for a cup of coffee? Well, you know, in a grid down situation, we've got coffee, and you know, it's good for us, it's good for morale, it's good for our, you know, prepper group or whatever you want to call us. So, you know, when you can't get coffee, we're going to have it. And it's one of those items that if we got into a barter situation, you know, I could barter that. I would much rather barter coffee beans than bullets that they can shoot me with.
Yep. So, a question came up: how do you keep squirrels from eating peaches? I mean, I'm sure Survivor Jane's out there with her 22, and that's dinner for Sunday night, right?
Well, you know that I had a problem early, and because we cut this thing out of 75-year-old or 75-foot tall oak forest, so a mature oak forest, and then we put this kind of right inside of it. So we cut a half an acre out, and you were still, you know, all that's still on the mountain. So, you know, they were deer going through, that was through their trails there. We've got squirrels, we've got raccoons, we've got possums, we've got a lot of potential pests for our foods, as well as predators for our other animals. You know, we've, like 3 years ago, I watched as a squirrel was up in our peach trees, and I'm going, what the hell is he doing up there? Because everything was just blossoming at the time. So there were just flowers in the trees, and the damn thing was eating the blossoms. Now, if you understand anything about fruit trees, they blossom once, they don't blossom twice. And, you know, whatever blossoms, whatever is you know, is pollinated, ends up being fruit. So those damn squirrels were eating the fruit before they were even allowed to be fruit. And I said, okay, this has got to stop. So I got an air rifle, and that just didn't work. And so I bought myself a you know, old standby Ruger 1022, and you know, that does the job. And then it got to a point where, you know, I had to reach out and touch them. So I learned a lot about optics, you know, scopes and that sort of stuff, because if you realize that a squirrel is like 3 inches tall when it's, you know, on all fours, and you've got to reach out 60 yards, and my gate, for example, is 63 yards from my window. That thing is just teeny tiny, so you kind of need a scope to see it. And, you know, when people talk about, you know, something squirrely, well, that's because it hops and it stops, and then it jumps and moves in different directions. So you learn to be a marksman. I like to say, you know, everything I learned about shooting and optics, I learned from squirrels, because you know, if you can take out those little guys, then you can take care and dispatch the other predators that we have too. And you know, because we have chickens and ducks, you know, we're in the Appalachian Mountains. We have every predator in western, you know, in the western Appalachian Mountains here. So, you know, we close all of our animals up except for the pigs, because nothing bothers them at night. So we bring everybody in, lock them up. But I still have motion sensors that are sound sensors and light sensors, and I've got different zones. So if something's over by the chicken coop that shouldn't be there, that's like 33 yards from my bedroom window, and I've got a clear shot at it. And I've also got a thermal scope too, because they can't hide from you with thermal. You know, night vision, you may or may not see something. Just depends on, you know, if there's any ambient light at all. In the fog, you see nothing with night vision. But with thermal, they can't hide. I mean, just you can see a heat signature anywhere.
So up around where you guys kind of live, there's been a lot of reports of bears up there. I've read this year.
Yeah.
Have you had any issues
Yeah, we have
with them?
They've torn some stuff up, and we've seen them on game cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So I am concerned about them, but we haven't had an issue with them. We have lots of coyote issues, and that's the biggest problem. And they are, you know, they're not a cute little dog. They're not, oh, how can you possibly shoot one of those? Well, I will tell you that if you've ever seen, and there's plenty of videos out there of a coyote taking down sweet little Bambi deer,
Mm-hmm.
and the deer is still alive, and the coyote's got his head inside of the deer and eating the organs while that deer is still alive and in shock. So
Yeah.
it'll do the same thing to goats, which, I've got dairy
Uh-huh.
goats, and we've got rabbits, and we've got, ducks, and we've got chickens. So I have no love lost for that animal, because they really are an invasive species. They were originally out west, and now they've moved here, and they're they'll eat just about anything, including cats and dogs and whatever else. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so we're always on the lookout for them. Most of the time they're hunting at night, and they're not an issue because we've got everybody locked up. But you do see some in the day, and when they are in the day, that there's something wrong. I saw a game camera that showed a coyote, and it was limping during the middle of the day. Well, that's injured. It's going to go after the easiest prey that you can get, and that's livestock. And when they have kits, in February, the first thing that they teach their young to hunt is livestock, because it's the easiest thing to catch.
Right.
So you got to protect your stuff. You got to protect your own well-being as well as your animals. So
So
you
have chickens. Do you have ducks too?
Yeah, we have ducks. They're an integral part of my garden system, because they will eat the bugs and slugs and snails that I don't want to have on the rest of my fruit. They'll walk through, and they will fertilize behind them, and they turn those bugs and slugs and snails into protein for me. So we've got khaki Campbell ducks, which are the most prolific egg-laying fowl in the world. They produce 300 eggs per duck per year, and they're like 1.5 times the size of a grade A extra large chicken egg. So not only to produce more eggs, but they produce larger eggs too. And so they are kind of my pesticide, my pest killer in the garden. The beauty of the ducks is they don't scratch up roots like chickens do. If you have chickens and they're in a contained area, you realize they turn everything into a desert pretty fast.
Right.
Because they just keep scratching the same spots over and over and over again. So, I've got chickens, they're in a separate area, and they kind of move them around, but they're all contained in fencing, and I've got electric wire running over the top of all of my fence, because predators look at fence as a ladder, and they'll climb up, your raccoons and your possums and that kind of thing. So they get shocked when they reach the top, and that most of the time will stop them.
Do you, with all this food and with the amount of eggs you're talking about, you guys do y'all have a freeze dryer?
Yeah. That was, we got it 2 years ago. I resisted it for a long time. But yeah, because we have the eggs, and we tried every way to preserve eggs, from the water glass stuff to the oil, mineral oil, and they last about 6 months. And then, at some point in the pantry starts to smell like rotten eggs, because that's what it is. And Jane and I point at each other and go, okay, it's your turn this time, to find where it is. So she was dehydrating eggs for a while, and the dozen and a half eggs, so 18 eggs, those kind of cartons. Well, 6 of those, if you dehydrate them, will fit into a small sandwich bag. So that's a lot of protein that you can carry around with you, or in your bug out bag or whatever. it's easier to store, and it doesn't, you don't have to worry about it breaking and going bad. So we're doing that with freeze drying of eggs as well, and we've freeze dried meat and everything that we've got. The biggest problem with the freeze dryer is, when they sell you on the fact that you can freeze dry stuff, they tell you, well, it's only like 24 hours. Well, it's never 24 hours. It's always longer
Right.
than that. And there's a certain amount of power that those things take up. They tell you that, but what they don't tell you is they generate heat. And so now if you're trying to keep your house cool, you've got to spend more money on power to cool off your house. So we've developed systems where, we try to, no, they're not. No, they're not quiet. But
so
it's just another way for us to preserve stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Someone asked about if you had any goose or even a peacock. I heard a peacock is good for protection around like a garden and farm. Do you have any of them? A goose or even guineas? Or not guinea?
Yeah, guineas allowed.
Yeah.
They're a good watchdog, so to speak, but they are so loud. I mean, first of all, there's a farm down below me, and they are a long ways away. And when those guineas go off, it's like, man, that is just annoying as hell. And it gives away your position. If you're trying to be discreet, they are not discreet. The same thing with roosters. You can hear a rooster from 5 miles away. If we're in a situation, we're in a grid down situation, and there's no cars running and there's no motors running, and it's just quiet as nature can be, they can triangulate your position just by, following that rooster crowing. So roosters will be the first animal that I kill in that kind of situation. But geese, we've looked at it because the geese will get along with the ducks. But we really haven't had an issue with, and we have a lot of birds of prey here. We have a lot of hawks, but no one's really touched the ducks because they're kind of a bigger duck, these khaki Campbells. And geese are aggressive. I mean, they're aggressive toward you, your owner. And the reason that they come up with the term being goosed is because they're just about that height. So, they can grab you by the fly, and it's not a fun situation. So so yeah, we just decided against geese because and we're looking, the animals we have are all very small, very sustainable, don't require a lot of feed, don't require a lot of space. Rabbits are the best source of protein you can get, and you can grow those guys in cages, and you could create, three girls and one boy will produce 90 full grown rabbits in a year. And you can do that in a garage if you want to. So,
I grow rabbits. I love rabbits. They're easy to grow. They're easy to dispatch. And I actually did a class one time of, we're all preppers here, but a class at Uwharrie National Forest. I bet people I could have a rabbit on a grill in 1 minute and 30 seconds while teaching a class. And I did. I was teaching a class in 1 minute and 30 seconds. I had that thing finished, taught everyone how to do it, and it was ready to go. Well, I don't want to end with you, but I do want to tell everybody, hey, you can get these books. Rick, what's your website when you sell books? I want people to go to your website. What's your website to buy books?
It's secretgardenofsurvival.com. So secretgardenofsurvival.com, all run together. And that will give you links to the different books. It'll take you to videos. It'll take you to, my YouTube channel where I've got, 175 videos on the stuff that's not included in the books that you can see kind of, more advanced classes, or you can see things kind of in different stages, from at different times of the year. And it'll take you to social media as well. So you kind of get an overview of what the garden's all about, and the Livestock book is all about, and the greenhouse is all about. And it's just a good resource. And from there, you can, click on those links and buy the books on Amazon or Barnes and Noble.
Okay. I'm going to get someone to post that link. They'll post it in a minute. But also, the
Mhm.
reason is I'm not done with you because, Rick, I could never do a show with you and not ask you what the heck is going on in the world, because you keep up with politics, the news.
Right.
You keep up with. I mean, you're like the jack of all trades when it comes to food forest, doing shows. But what the heck is going on in the world right now? And are we going to survive? Or are we going to be in a war? What's your thoughts on that? I got to know what Rick is thinking.
Read what the World Economic Forum's putting out. That's what's going on. You know, it's the reason for everything. It's the reason that they have vaccines that actually harm you and kill you. The World Economic Forum said that we have to be down to basically cut out 95% of the population. So it's probably going to be easier to control the few that are left. They want to put us all in these smart cities, so that they can. It is 1984. The book, the movie, it is exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
They need some workers. They need people to do the menial stuff that robots can't do, or the stuff that robots can't do. And the elite will live well, and the rest of us will own nothing and supposedly be happy. But they need to cull the herd. And I'm not. Believe me, every time I go into Walmart, I realize that, there's probably a few people we could live without. There's probably a lot of useless eaters out there. But who's going to make that decision? Who is God that's going to decide who's and who dies? And I'm not really willing to give up my freedoms. And, I'm not going to. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. But, in the meantime, I'm growing my own food, which means I don't have to spend money at the grocery store. It means I'm
Mm-hmm.
healthier than, anybody that would be for my age. And it's just, it's a great lifestyle too. So, I mean, let's look at what I save a year by not having to go to the grocery store. I think the average family now is spending about $17,000 a year in food, and staples alone have gone up 74% in the last 2 years. So things like sugar and flour and the stuff that you make stuff with has gone up. So, if you don't have to spend 17 grand a year in food because you're growing your own, or at least a big portion of it, then that money can be plowed into other prepping stuff, whether that be ammunition, supplies, medical stuff, drugs, and that kind of thing to thwart off the next disease and pandemic, or solar panels for your house, whatever it happens to be. So it's a lot easier to live, and it's a lot easier not to have to make a lot of money if you're not spending close to 20 grand a year just to feed yourself. And it's security too, food security. But in terms of what's going on in the world, look at what the World Economic Forum wants to do. They want to turn, they want to kill 95% of us, and they want to turn the rest of us into slaves. And, they want to be the ruling class because they've decided that they are. And, the people that are involved in that are all the ultra rich elites. And, Klaus Schwab, the guy that runs the World Economic Forum, he got it honest, so to speak, because his father was one of Hitler's right-hand men, a Nazi, and his mother was a Rothschild. So you can kind of see where he's coming from. But yeah, and I don't, maybe most of these elites that are in Washington, D.C. think they're going to be safe too, but I think they're just useful idiots that they'll use them until, let's get rid of you. I mean, look at all the different communist countries when they've taken over and created communism. They've started off with socialism, and the elite educated class would push for the socialism stuff, the ones that are teaching in colleges and that kind of thing, and the politicians are pushing socialism. And then when they finally get to full-blown socialism, the communists take over and they kill all the guys that helped them become socialist. Because we got to get rid of you. We can't have you around because you'll speak up against us. So that happened, and it's a major thing of control. And I think even bigger than that, even a higher level of thinking maybe is that this is just this is a war of good versus evil. This is God versus the devil, and the devil's minions that are being used by the devil to take us out. So it's a spiritual thing too, and you've got to start thinking spiritually and realize that these aren't just people you're dealing with. They're demons, and I affectionately call the Democrats in Congress demon rats. That's what they are. And there's lots of Republicans that are on the take too, but I'm for Lord and God and country and family, and those are the things that we need to protect. And the United States of America has been and still is that shining beacon on the hill that the rest of the world looks to. And when they take the United States down, which they need to do, if the United States fall, then everybody else falls. And what I am encouraged about is that people are waking up around the world, and suddenly the French are protesting, the Germans are protesting, the farmers in Holland are protesting. I think just the other day they sprayed feces fertilizer all over Parliament in Holland because they're trying to stop them from growing food. People
in
are
Argentina.
Finally, Argentina, and people are finally waking up and saying, wait a minute, we don't want to be doing this anymore. And with the quote migrants from the Middle East moving in and not assimilating, people are tired of it in Europe. I mean, they were sold a bill of goods that they really had to be, and they were trying to be nice and accommodating and help these people out, and they're getting raped. These are Sharia supremacists that just want to institute Sharia law, and that's their function. And there's a lot of push to send them back from where they came, and I think that's good. I think people are finally standing up and for their right as humans, and so we'll see what happens, but that's encouraging for me.
So it's almost like this. America, we have had the conservative population. We speak our voice, we speak our opinion, we try to vote our people into office. When I'm a conservative, when we look at an election, we look at it as an election. When the Democratic Party looks at an election, they look at it as war. That's two different ways of looking at it.
Well, yeah,
and what you're naming all these countries that people are rising up, and it's a big deal there because they've never done that before. And it's almost like we try to do it in America, and we just we got tired of it, or we got beat, or lost a little one of the battles, and we're just kind of putting up with the crap now. These other countries, as it becomes more mainstream, they're not going to put up with it. There's going to be major turmoil in all these countries, more so than ever in America.
I agree. And I'll never forget this video I saw after the 2020 election, when it was obvious to so many people that it was stolen. And somebody I can't remember, it was one of the Slavic countries, but he is like, what is we're Americans. You have guns. Why aren't you storming the Capitol and demanding that they redo the election? Scare those guys out of there. He's like, I can't understand why you're just laying, sitting back and taking it. And I don't know. I think at some point it's getting bad. It's getting bad from an economic standpoint. It's getting bad for, in every conceivable way. And, what this administration has done, the third administration of Obama, they have tried to destroy this country. They're doing everything they can from, suddenly, we just lost $85 billion worth of our best armors and technology and guns to the Taliban because we walked off and left them away. We're giving all this armament and these missiles to the Ukraine, and now we're running out of the stuff to protect ourselves. And let's stop the pipelines so that we're no longer an exporter of energy and we have to beg Saudi Arabia for it at much higher prices. It's all intentional. It's all intentional. You couldn't be that stupid. So, they're purposely trying to destroy this country. And again, if you destroy America, the rest of the world is happy, the elites anyway, because there's nobody to point to and say, well, America, they've got guns, they've got the Second Amendment, they can speak their mind, they have freedom of speech. There's freedom of speech in other countries, but not like the United States. It's not
Right.
in their constitutions. In England, for example, they have freedom of speech until Parliament decides that, no, you don't. You can't talk about this anymore. And all they have to do is create a law, and now it's illegal to talk about it. So we're not there. This was, in our Constitution. They're trying as much as possible to take it away. The government is trying to take it away through third parties like, Facebook and YouTube and, all of the platforms that are all part of the same, MK Ultra project for the CIA. But that's where we are. And, that's why we need to, think about things from a spiritual standpoint and go where it takes us.
That's one reason I've kind of changed. I'm still all about groups and survival groups, and you talk about groups a lot, and that's why I love what you're doing and respect you, because a lot of people aren't in groups, but I know you're in a group. So that's kind of been PrepperNet's focus, is in a group. You can't do it alone. A group is your most important preparation. But here recently, I've kind of changed course a little bit, and it may be because, not speaking from not of arrogance, but I've been doing this for 23, 24 years. I know how to purify water, and I've practiced it 40 times, maybe 140 times. But now I've been focusing on, hey, people, and so I teach a class, even at Prepper Camp, start a home-based business, because to get out of the system. That's what you and Jane did. Y'all were both business people working in the towers, and get out of the system by creating your own business. You can create income from your own business. You can kind of get out of the system. Once you get your house paid for and your land paid for. What do you need money for? You need money, just grow your own food. You could literally grow your own food, still go on vacation, do everything you want to do when you retire, and not even make enough to pay taxes. You know what I mean? You could be in a certain tax bracket. And that's why I created the course, and been pushing guys. You can retire. Everyone's equity in their house is gone up 50%. You could sell your house, go buy something, and retire early. You just don't have, the millions of dollars that you wanted, but it's more valuable than when you're 65, 7 years old and you finally retire. What are you going to do? You're not healthy. Yes, you got money, but the 20, 30 years you wasted of just trying to build that nest egg up. Everybody's like, what does a home-based business have to do with preparedness? I'm like, everything to get out of the system. And I also focus on, so people starting their own business, trying to get out of the system, and also focus on privacy and security. Let's protect yourself and your information. And so that's kind of the two paths I've been going down a lot with preppers. And a lot of them like, I want to learn how to use a life straw. I'm like, well, go watch a dang video. So
yeah, we need alternate economy.
yeah,
You know, we need to stop giving our money to people who hate us. So, but you know, on the other hand, as they're saying now, go woke, go broke. Look at what's happened to Disney. Look what happened to Bob Iger. He got kicked out for all of this moronic and, you know, anti-family stuff that the movies, you know, Disney's movies have been putting out from the company that was supposed to be the family movie empire, and now they're producing all this crap that people won't go see. And the last $300 million movie they just created, you know, had 9 million at the box office. You know, they're upside down in all that stuff, and that's great because, you know, the Bud Lights of the world are learning their lesson. The Disneys may or may not learn their lesson, but you know, we've got people are waking up and they're voting with their dollars, or you know, at least not going back to them, and they're canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions and everything else. So good, that's good. Let's show them that we really do have the power. There's way more of us than there are of them, and we just need to figure it out and unite, and you know,
and vote,
take these people out. Yep. Well, vote, but we've got to vote in ways that can't be stolen, because they figured out how to do that too, you know. So and I've become much more politically active on a regional and local level too, because I watched that 2020 election and the 22 election in Arizona, and all they did is just shut off the damn machines. And so, you know, people that were going on the day of voting to vote didn't vote because they couldn't. And so they're doing every conceivable way, from literally stuffing ballot boxes to changing the algorithms on the machine. So
did you watch 2000
you know,
Mules?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's shocking to see, and then hear what people think that they know about the election. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's a video out there now. Mike Lindell funded this thing, whether you love him or hate him or don't just think he's whatever. But there's a guy who is really a statistician that has been working for him. And he went and he analyzed 3,000 counties in the United States, and there's 3,000 something counties total. And looked at the machines and looked at the voter rolls and noticed that the voter rolls, they cleaned the voter rolls, so the voter rolls went downhill, and then just before the election the voter rolls went up. So they just stuffed those voter rolls so that they can then create votes that go with a voter that doesn't even exist anymore. You know, there were more 120-year-old voters in the last election than ever before. So they're doing those kind of things, and it's the machines are connected to the internet. As much as they tell you they're not, they are connected to the internet. And we've got to look at ways to maybe block those things. And there are ways to do that. In fact, Mike Lindell has come up with a device that can actually block the signal so that these machines can't get on the internet. All you have to do is have it in that room so that they can't be changing votes. But you know, we've got to start doing that, because 2024 is coming up, and we can't afford to lose this one, because if we do, we're going to lose the republic.
Yeah.
And as I've told Jane so many times, it says, we either win it in the election or there's going to be blood. There is going to be blood. It's either ours, theirs, or both. But there will be a civil war, and because people won't stand for it any longer.
Well, Rick, this is going to be a great podcast for people for sure. Get your website again is the Secret
Secret Garden of Survival.com.
Okay.
And of course, preppercamp.com.
Yeah. So your tickets will be on sale until the end of December, and then they're going to go up. They're $54.95, I believe, right now, guys.
Yep. Right now.
And so $54.95. Preppercamp.com. Get your tickets before they go up. This also helps Rick. He knows how many people are coming. He can get a good feel for it. And I'm sure a lot of these things you have to pay out front too to get tickets. I mean, your TVs and your tents and all that kind of stuff. So go ahead the earlier you get the tickets, the better off you are. And they always sell out. And so don't think, Rick probably don't want me to tell you this, but if you're down and it's 2 weeks before Prepper Camp, you think you lost your money because you now can't go because Granny is now in the hospital. Trust me, there's a black market for these tickets because they sell out. There's a black market, and we always have them. People are like, hey, I'm selling my tickets or whatever because stuff happens. So don't think you're going to just lose your money if something happens. Trust me, there's a market for the tickets because they stop selling them because they sell out, and people always are wanting tickets. So but don't count on that either, though. Go ahead and get your ticket. Well, actually, at that time, you would pay more for the tickets than there are now. So go ahead and buy them now. So, but Rick, Austin, thank you. Tell Prepper Jane, Survivor Jane, we said hi. And I know she's going to yell at me going, why didn't you have me on? No, she's awesome. I love her. But thank you for doing Prepper Camp. Thank you for the books you're providing and you're writing for everyone. And guys, go buy their books. I mean, you guys got questions? Buy the books. And Rick has never been known not to reply to someone's email. Everyone I've ever talked to, you always reply if you have a question. And then you go to take his classes. I mean, a lot of information. And you guys make yourself available. I know you guys do. I mean, your wife is big on Twitter. Is it Prepper Talk? She does the hashtag Prepper Talk.
She's all over social media. So yeah, she's always out there. She is the social butterfly, for sure.
It's funny when at Prepper Camp down the vendor row, she goes just like this from tent to tent. Yep. People are talking to her.
Yep.
Because everyone, I mean, not that you don't, but she just talks to everyone.
Yep. No, so, I'm just I'm in full management mode during Prepper Camp. I wish I could go to the classes because I find these classes. I said, oh yeah, that's one I'd like to see. I really would like to see that class, but I can never go because I'm always managing stuff and making sure fires are put out before they even happen. And that way everything's seamless for the attendees. They never see where there might be a glitch. And, there's plenty of those things that can happen with as much technology as we have there. As much, if I could do the event without big screen TVs and without AV systems and computers and PowerPoints, it would be so much easier for me. But, it's all about people learning stuff. And those are great tools to be able to do that. So, we got to keep on top of it when we're there.
Yeah, it's always a great event. I've always enjoyed going. And Rick, I appreciate you coming on and sharing and educating us. And can't wait until Prepper Camp happens. And this will be put out on a podcast later this week. And if you need anything, you can call me. I did get your event. It's on preppershowsusa.com. And I did send a password reset but I just said, we would take it, and I'm going to promote. We always promote your event, and I will promote it from PrepperNet and Prepper Shows USA both.
Actually, Jane and I changed some of the copy and the main picture today because she was able to get on, and I said, that was like 3 years ago we were saying that. So so much has changed, and we're doing so much more. So yeah, I know. Well, no, I appreciate that you found it and you put it back up. But so we just I said, oh, that's great. Now I don't have to bother, Forrest to
I
do
think
it.
I even create a banner for you to the side there. So
yeah, I appreciate that. It's
yeah,
good.
man.
It's good.
So everyone, thank you for coming on, and thank you for being with us. And we thank Rick, who's been awesome. And you guys have a good week. Next week is Scott. Let's don't forget about Scott, which you're good friends with Scott. So he's going to be on next week. There we go.
Yep.
So we will see you next week at 8:00, and it's our Christmas show. God bless everyone, and y'all take care.
Thank you.